Hi everyone, I'm back after a gazillion years. A lot has happened in the past 3 years. The laptop that I used to edit my other videos kind of crashed and burned and died. It couldn't even run the video editor that I used to use. I've also just been grinding away at uni and work. I finally become a teacher, which has been very fun. And I've been obsessed with comics, reading a bunch, making some of my own. It's been super fun drawing. But I'm back here right now to talk about Naoko Yamada's new movie, The Colors Within, or also known as Kimi no Iro. I'll use both pretty interchangeably throughout the video, but holy shit, this movie is so good. I love it so much. This review will be a series of shorter videos split into small chunks. They're going to be unscripted and rambly and a bit all over the place, but it will be a sustainable way for me to continue working on videos in the future. The editing's going to be super minimal, it's just going to be a PowerPoint slideshow of stuff that I'm covering. This first video is going to be a big general overview of what I like about the movie and what you can expect going into it. It'll mostly be spoiler free, but I'll be spoiling some other things as I talk about it along the way, so here's a warning for that right now. In later episodes, the focus will be more on the analysis of certain scenes and breaking down the craft and meaning behind them. The movie isn't out on streaming yet, but I hope that everyone can see it soon, because holy shit, it's so good. But yeah, here we go, The Colors Within, Kimi no Iro, let's go. I was super lucky for it to appear at a film festival where I live, where I was able to watch it with a bunch of my friends twice. There were 2 screenings of the movie, and both times I just absolutely loved it. The cinema was full of great vibes, everyone just sat down, was laughing their asses off at the funny points in the movie, having a great time. And you could just feel the fun and the sense of excitement radiating throughout the entire cinema. It was just a super lucky opportunity to be able to watch it on the big screen. I don't even know how our bum-ass town was able to even get the licensing rights to it or anything, but yeah, just super lucky. They had like a thing on Instagram on the film festival's page where they asked their followers, what movies do you want to see at the film festival? And like, completely hopelessly, I just typed in, I want to watch Kimi no Iro in the like little questions box that they've got on Instagram. I'm not sure if that influenced fate or the future or anything, but if it did, I'm super grateful for the film festival for including the movie, and I'm just super happy about it. I don't even know where to begin with how good this movie is. Like, holy shit. It just feels like a huge celebration and exploration of all of Naoko's usual themes and ideas presented in her work, but then there's so much new shit as well. If you want the quickest synopsis in the world about what this movie is, it's just about 3 kids, Totsuko, Kimi, and Rui. All 3 of them are just super funny, awkward, but really passionate kids who are kind of dealing with their own shit, but they come together, they become friends, and they form a band in order for them to confront their feelings and just as a way to spend time with each other and to have fun. You've got Naoko's triangle trio, the dream team, running the entire thing. You've got Naoko herself. You've got Reiko Yoshida, who's just written so much great stuff in the industry. She's responsible for a lot of the best slice of life which has come out. And you've got Kensuke Ushio, whose fractured and ambient soundtrack gives everything a unique feel. His music has an ambiguity to it which gives this movie a lot of emotional depth. And the physicality and the lo-fi-ness of the recording and the mixing gives a lot of scenes and environments a sense of actually being there. This is Naoko's 3rd work with the animation studio Science Saru. These guys are making some of the best stuff in the game. It's full of heart and actual passion for the projects that they're making. It's not slop. Masaki Yuasa used to be the CEO of the studio, and he's just one of the goats in the entire industry. Like, holy shit, his work is so expressive and innovative and experimental. I wish all shows had the balls to break the mold of animation like his do, but most shows don't have the balls. As I said, it's like a big combination of all of Naoko's work and themes that she's covered so far. It's super funny and silly, like K-On! Is, and it's about exploring friendship and closeness and your bonds with your friends and intimacy. Like Tamako Market, it's set in this very small town. This movie is set in Nagasaki, but you just get this great sense of a lived-in environment in this movie like you do with Tamako. Like Liz, it's just tremendously gay, but there's also this other side of it which is super sad, super lonely. It's about isolation and not fitting in, The characters are really goofy and awkward, and it's a basis for a lot of the comedy, but also a lot of the drama in this movie. It works both ways, which is really great. I've already seen a lot of people saying that they see a lot of autistic subtext in this movie, and I actually totally agree with them. Nothing's overt or anything, but I do genuinely think that this movie portrays autism in a cool and loving and respectful way. But yeah, awesome based autism movie for me. Thumbs up. Music is treated as this thing which just heals your fucking soul. And even though the music that the kids play is quite amateurish, the importance of it in the movie is how it gets each of the characters to grow and understand and love each other. I really like how music is portrayed in Naoko's work, because it's not about being the very best at it, it's really just about how much music can enhance and improve our everyday lives, and how it's used as a means of communication and connection. The pace of the movie is really slow, it's super low stakes, there's very little in the sense of narrative bullshit or melodrama. Most teen dramas focus on how unideal and terrible growing up is and how horrible an experience high school is. A lot of it focuses on drug use, sex, acne, not fitting in, just being gross and stinky and full of hormones. And while I like how textured and honest these portrayals of high school are, and how they are able to capture the hell of being a teenager, I think it leads to a lot of them having the same emotional messaging and themes, which can lead to a lot of homogeny and treading the same ground. What I really like about this movie is that it's able to portray the pain and the loneliness of being a teenager, but in a much more unique and non-gratuitous way. The characters aren't treated as punching bags or treated as symbols for societal ills or problems. They're portrayed with so much humanity and care and humour, and it makes them feel like real people. If you want a quick rundown of what this movie looks like, it's exactly what you'd expect from Naoko's work, and this might be her best looking movie yet. You've got delicate and expressive character animation, there's also very pragmatic shot composition that focuses on the sense of depth and space between the characters and their surroundings. I've got a lot of fatigue from movies which have beautiful cinematography but not much depth or meaning in the actual shots themselves. But there's always a sense of purpose with everything in this movie. A lot of the shots are meant to illustrate the isolation between the characters, but also the intimacy once those boundaries are broken. There's lots of digital compositing to mimic film cameras to help emphasize this space even more, as well as characters' subjective point of view. It also gives the movie a hazy, dreamy texture with lots of dust and particles and light flying everywhere. You've got soothing, beautiful pastel colours, and they're given particular care in this movie. They're combined with the lighting to subliminally represent the feelings of the characters a lot of the time. There's lots of flower language, there's lots of birds, there's lots of leg shots, you know the drill. There's a thread-like quality to the line art of the characters. The characters aren't composed of a lot of lines, but the few lines that are there are just super precise and round, fluffy, affectionate, fun. And there's a lot of nuance in how bodies are shown to move and look in a three-dimensional space. In terms of new stuff, there's lots of imagery related to Catholicism and Christianity. There's lots of spinning and twirling in this movie. There's some really cool shit with ballet. You've got everything with the setting of Nagasaki. Colours are obviously given a lot of attention, and there's stuff to do with planets and space as well, but I'll break this down a bit later into the video series. I think it's also been tying together a lot of the themes that Naoko has been exploring with her most recent projects. Those would be Heike Monogatari and Garden of Remembrance. I only want to discuss the context surrounding this movie for a little while, because I don't want it to be the defining lens or way that I perceive the ideas in this movie. There's so much that this movie accomplishes which is outside of the kind of horrific context that it's been made in. For those who are unaware, Naoko Yamada's previous studio where she used to make all of her shows and movies, Kyoto Animation, was the target of an arson attack in 2019, and it killed 36 of Naoko's colleagues, which there's really no words for it. It's like one of the worst things that could happen to anyone, really. I watched the movie Look Back recently, which was directed by Kiyotaka Oshiyama, a great director who has done fantastic work on shows like Space Dandy, and the original story was written by Tatsuki Fujimoto, the author of Chainsaw Man, and it really fucked me up because it seems to kind of tackle the situation of what happens when artists and people we love die and like what we can do about that, really. Part of the movie acknowledges that making art is kind of a useless and meaningless endeavor in the face of such horrific things. Part of the movie is about wanting to escape and to use art to rewrite or to reshape history and to save the people that you've lost. But ultimately, the conclusion that the movie comes to is that even though art can't give you superpowers to change time or to course correct history, it can still be a valuable way to share how much you loved that person, to share what you've learnt from them and to put it in your own work, and to express how much you miss them, how much you appreciated and loved them, and in a way that makes their life eternal and forever cherished and valued. I feel like all of Naoko's recent work at Science Saru has been a way of putting this into practice and to spread even more love in the world despite how horrible everything is. Heike Monogatari is about the fall of an entire empire and how impermanent even the most permanent seeming things are. Yet the story ends with the two main characters, Biwa and Tokuko, using both music and religion as a way that they honour the memory of the people that they love who have died, and to continue sharing their story and who they were as people. On the other hand, you've got Garden of Remembrance, which is about a girl grieving the death of her boyfriend. She's shown repeating the same morning routine day after day with little variation, not being able to break the cycle. But eventually what lets her move on with her life is remembering those happy times that she had with her boyfriend, through the flowers that they used to buy, and the music that they used to play, and the art that they used to make. It's really, really touching stuff. Again, I just want to make clear that I don't want to wallow in pity or sadness regarding the pretty tough context surrounding this movie. The main reason why I bring it up is because I just want to emphasize how much resilience and passion and just hope and joy this movie has. A lot of art that's made and that's highly respected is super pessimistic and hateful and extremely mad at the world. A lot of this art is really great, and a lot of the artists who make it really have gone through tough shit. Life can be brutal and unfair and disappointing and just really scary. And art is one of the best ways in which we can express our frustration with that and to heal from it. It can also be used as a tool for social movement and change when things are completely unfair, and it can be the first step towards identifying and solving these problems. It's really important to be extremely truthful about these issues, or else they won't be properly addressed. However, what I think separates the good type of pessimistic art from the bad type of pessimistic art is the pessimistic art that's able to find hope or strength amidst everything, or is able to shed light on something that is really important, or shows the artist or a group of people being able to shoulder and survive what's going on. A lot of this wallowy art that I watch and read doesn't really do this. Sometimes the artistry slaps so much that it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but a lot of the time it doesn't. The amount of strength that Naoko presents with this film, and just how good it is outside of any of this outside context. All this hateful, dreadful, spiteful art just kind of seems pathetic and egotistical in a way. This movie gives me something which most movies don't even try to do or try to accomplish, and that's give me genuine, fucking hope about things. And it's kind of funny and weird to think that most art sees hope as something completely unrealistic and delusional, and it is in a way, but Naoko's optimism is just super refreshing and something that you can't really find anywhere else. It's genuine optimism, not a cheap lie. The main purpose and theme of this movie is all about acceptance, accepting yourself and being able to accept the past. The main character Totsuko literally recites the Serenity Prayer at the start of the movie. It goes something along the lines of, God, grant me the strength to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to distinguish one from the other. Within this movie, the Catholic setting and the familial pressures imposed upon the main characters really act as barriers towards their own self-acceptance, and they're a cause of a lot of shame, guilt, repression, and fear. However, once again, the movie shows so much maturity and nuance in how it handles its message, by not treating these things as antagonistic forces that ruin the lives of the characters. The characters love their families, and their families love them back as well, and Totsuko is genuinely proud of her religious faith. What self-acceptance allows these characters to do is coexist with these societal pressures in a healthy way, but still live for themselves and have their own agency. And while I like how the movie tackles these themes in a very specific and low-stakes context, the message of acceptance is super powerful, and it can be applied to many sorts of situations where you might be feeling guilt or grief or a bit uncomfortable in any sort of way. It's especially powerful in looking at this movie through a queer lens, and how religious institutions can be such a huge barrier towards queer people accepting themselves. I think this movie has a lot of depth and bravery and backbone, And if you think otherwise, I've seen some other people already criticize this movie for not having enough drama or stakes or being too fluffy and idealistic. I kindly say to those people, just go fuck yourself. The brevity and the levity of this movie is exactly what allows its themes of isolation and separation to land. It's able to portray these things in a much more clever and subtle way. It draws attention to how short and sacred the moments of joy between the characters actually are, and how much they need to be cherished and appreciated. This movie is also about emotions that are small and secretive and kept close to the characters' hearts. Going for larger narrative strokes would take away that appeal from the movie, and would cause a lot of lame melodrama that you've already come to expect from a lot of these teen dramas. The movie avoids a lot of didactic diatribe and grand speeches that a lot of modern movies try to use to get their points across. The characters in this movie are very introverted and awkward, and when the movie does get a bit more talky, it's usually very chill and optimistic rather than screaming in your face about something. It instead builds most of that emotional catharsis through the movie's musical performances and that joy of being understood. This movie is just very happy and serendipitous, and it doesn't create conflict and tension for the sake of it. There's no cruel, crazy plot twists, the band doesn't try to break up just for the sake of it, and there's no silly love triangles or anything like that. While the characters don't always get what they want, they are usually very lucky, and when they allow themselves to accept their flaws and confide in family members or each other, they are very understanding and forgiving of one another. This movie shows how silly the perceived problems can be in our heads sometimes, and how to put trust in the world. The growth that the characters experience is very small, and it's partially accidental, but it's something that they really have to pursue and choose for themselves, with only light bits of guidance here and there. And it makes everything really rewarding to experience. Not all of the characters' problems are resolved in the end of the movie, and the final scene especially is one of the saddest things that I've ever seen in a movie, I think. But their self-acceptance and what they get out of playing music is really the biggest victory that you could ask for. And it makes the entire experience worthwhile. It was something I found super validating to watch as someone who has really struggled accepting my own art and my own drawings, but finding a medium as cool as comics where the drawings are so intense and interesting and have so much appeal outside of just being perfect. I've taken inspiration from comics and finally been able to make work which I'm truly proud of and super excited and enthusiastic to make. I'm sorry for sounding a bit cunty in that last section for a bit, but I've just got a bone to pick with all these film bros who give this movie a low rating, and then you see their top 4 on Letterboxd and it's all this boring bullshit which sledgehammers you in the face with its point. Like, to be clear, I don't think a movie being subtle automatically makes it good. Subtle movies can very often be just very boring and dry. But I hope with my analysis later in this series that I'm able to show you how fun this movie is and how it's full of craft and excitement and real good technical shit. The last thing I want to mention before concluding this video is something that I noticed while reading interviews with the creative staff of this film. I bought this guidebook which has tons of staff interviews that covers nearly everyone who worked on this project who had a lead role. There's interviews with unit directors, people who worked on the visuals, voice actors, Naoko herself, just so much here. The most common thing that people expressed when working on this movie was how nice it was to work with Naoko and how much freedom and trust they were given in doing their own thing. They talked about how they weren't afraid to make mistakes, and that if things didn't go right, all they needed was a small bit of feedback or a nudge in the right direction, and then they were able to solve the problem all by themselves. I think these comments illustrate that the main strength of this movie is that you can feel the genuine love and enthusiasm that went into its creation, and it allows everything from its technical craft to its themes of acceptance to land with extreme grace and honesty. But yeah, thanks. That concludes part 1 of what I imagine is going to be a 10 billion episode long series. But yeah, just really looking forward to breaking down these scenes in a bit more detail and showing you why I find this movie to be so good. Thank you so much, and I'll be back soon, I promise.